stark expression of pro-Serb feelings within adjoining Macedonia.
It's known that the Serbs are desperate for blood, but they've denied NATO suggestions that they've been forcing ethnic Albanians to boost supplies.
As they gave their blood, NATO planes were attempting to destroy a TV transmitter on a hill above the hospital. 3 bombs all appeared to miss the target. The Macedonians left for home, saying they'd be prepared to return. As they crossed the border, they passed a group of refugees, the other victims of this conflict. David Crabtree, Sky News, on Macedonia's border with Serbia.
200.000 Männern, die angeblich im Kosovo verschwunden sind, von denen Albaner, aber auch westliche Politiker behaupten, sie seien serbischen Massakern zum Opfer gefallen. Beim Grenzübergang Morina kamen heute fast 500 Männer über die Grenze und man sieht ihnen an, welche Strapazen hinter ihnen liegen, wie erleichtert sie sind, sicheres Gebiet erreicht zu haben. Sie waren in serbischen Lagern in Vustri und in Kosovska Mitrovica festgehalten worden. Es war einfach schrecklich. In dieser Haltung musste ich 3 Stunden lang knien, 3 Stunden lang. Und ständig wurde ich geschlagen von der Polizei, von Geheimpolizisten und auch von serbischen Zivilisten, die einfach in die Grundschule hereinkamen, wo wir festgehalten wurden. Wegen des guten Wetters hatte die NATO ihre Angriffe wieder verstärkt. Allein 309 Bombenangriffe wurden heute geflogen. Dumpfe Explosionen erschütterten wieder die Kosovo-Hauptstadt Pristina, wo militärische Einrichtungen das Ziel waren. In Schutt und Asche gelegt wurde die größte Tabakfabrik des Landes im südserbischen Niš. Nach jugoslawischen Angaben wurden ein Ehepaar und dessen Enkel bei dem Angriff getötet. Die NATO behauptet, solche Fabriken würden vom serbischen Militär als getarnte Kasernen benutzt. Riesige Explosionspilze standen auch über den Außenbezirken von Belgrad. Erneut waren das Industriegebiet Rakovica und der Militärflugplatz Batajnica das Ziel. Im Visier der NATO-Jets lagen auch Verkehrsverbindungen. Südlich von Niš wurde diese Brücke durch Sprengbomben zum Einsturz gebracht. Der Autoput ist jetzt an vielen Stellen nicht mehr passierbar. 3 Raketen zerstörten heute Mittag diese Eisenbahnbrücke bei Varvarin über den Fluss Morava. Zum Zeitpunkt des Angriffs seien auf der Brücke, über die auch Autos fahren können, mehrere zivile Fahrzeuge gewesen. Nach jugoslawischen Angaben seien dabei mehrere Autos ins Wasser gestürzt und mindestens 11 Menschen ums Leben gekommen.
Erschöpfte Männer, Frauen und Kinder auf albanischen Schmugglerbooten aus Seenot gerettet von der italienischen Küstenwache. Bilder wie diese sollten nach dem Willen der italienischen Regierung eigentlich der Vergangenheit angehören. Doch wenn die See in der Meerenge von Otranto so ruhig ist wie im Moment, dann machen die Menschenschmuggler in den albanischen Häfen Durrës und Valona besonders gute Geschäfte. Das wird vor allem in diesem Jahr des Kosovo-Krieges nicht anders sein.
Per aiutare I profughi del Kosovo, il governo italiano ha organizzato Missione Arcobaleno.
Eine groß angelegte Medienkampagne der Regierung hatte viele Millionen an Spendengeldern zugunsten der Aktion Arcobaleno, zu Deutsch Regenbogen, eingebracht. Gelder, die besonders auch zum geregelten bzw. kontrollierten Transport von Flüchtlingen aus dem Kosovo auf Militärschiffen nach Italien verwendet werden sollten. Doch nun ist wieder eingetreten, was der italienische Staat damit eigentlich vermeiden wollte. Die berüchtigten Schmugglerboote sind wieder des Nachts unterwegs, den Flüchtlingen wird wieder dafür das letzte Geld abgenommen. Oft völlig mittellos kommen sie in Italien an, wenn sie ankommen. Die italienischen Küstenwachbehörden sind dabei so machtlos wie zuvor. Eine lückenlose Kontrolle der Küstenstreifen ist nicht möglich, selbst jetzt nicht, da die gesamte Adriaküste unter militärischen Bedingungen abgesichert wird. Die Flüchtlingsdramen, sie werden sich wohl wiederholen.
Un bambino non è scemo, capiscono subitissimo che qua non è la loro vita, che qua non si possono fermare per anni. Dunque anche loro pensano che la più bella cosa che possa capitare è andare via in Kosovo. Io non so se nelle tende la sera i genitori alimentano l'odio per i serbi, non lo so. Penso di sì. Devi immaginare il 1945 a Parigi di cosa si parlava nelle case sui tedeschi. E così si passa ora qua. È difficile fare capire a un bambino, a adulti che hanno perso assolutamente tutto, la metà della famiglia. Ci sono qua in questo campo bambini soli, tutti sono morti nella famiglia. La gente qua sono arrivati con la roba e basta, neanche un sacchetto con un'altra giacca, niente. 2 giorni fa ero con un bambino di 6 anni, 7 anni e la mamma raccontava con questa bambina quando è scappata via, si è salvato la vita, lei era questa bambina di 6 anni, ha portato la bambina per 24 ore, è una cosa incredibile, ha camminato 24 ore senza fermarsi, senza bere, senza mangiare, fino a che è arrivata alla frontiera, si è buttato nell'autobus e è arrivata nel campo. Moralmente è difficile e la mia esperienza dei paesi durissimi come l'Afghanistan, come dicevo, mi aiuta qua perché ho imparato a essere nella storia della persona e a proteggermi, a mettermi un po' fuori. Se no faccio come gli altri, piango.
Campaign, averaging 300 strike sorties a day. The alliance's military commander says the air war will push the Serbs to accept NATO's demands.
I don't think it's either a bombing pause and diplomacy or bombing. I think it's the opposite. I think it's the bombing that's impelling the diplomacy.
One of the targets NATO struck Sunday was this bridge over the Velika Morava River in central Serbia. Local authorities say 12 civilians were killed in the attack. NATO said it could neither confirm nor deny the civilian casualties, but the alliance called the bridge a designated and legitimate target.
They are opposed to the peaceful resolution of the problem, and they are still decided to win one unwinnable and unauthorized war.
On the diplomatic front, Finnish President Martti Ahtisaari says he hopes to travel to Belgrade this week in his role as the European Union's envoy to the Balkans. Meanwhile, Russian envoy Viktor Chernomyrdin says Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic is now ready to compromise, and the Russians are calling for a pause in the bombing to give diplomacy a chance. But NATO officials are firmly rejecting the idea.
Any bombing pause now will give the Serbs a chance to continue their campaign against the some 500,000 plus Kosovar Albanians that are still inside Kosovo. It will give them a chance to reconstitute and refit their forces.
Publicly, NATO officials are supportive of Russian diplomatic efforts, but they say that diplomacy does not mean negotiation, and they insist there will be no compromise whatsoever on NATO's demands. Jonathan Karl, CNN, The Pentagon.
On Saturday, 2 Chinook helicopters brought groups of older people and mothers with young children to new camps which have been set up in southern Albania. There are 30,000 refugees at Kukës and 70,000 more at other camps near the Kosovo border. The UN wants to evacuate about 1,000 a day from the area.
Men crossed from Kosovo into Albania at Murina. Like many other new arrivals in the past week, they said they'd been held by Serbian troops in makeshift prison camps.
I've been in this position.
This man said he'd been forced to kneel down for hours. He said police and civilians had taken turns beating him. Other prisoners reported being forced to give up everything they owned before their release.
The Kosovo Albanian refugees have met a host of dignitaries in recent weeks. Today they welcomed the Spanish Prime Minister Jose Maria Aznar when he arrived at a new refugee camp called Hamalai on the coast near the port of Durrës. The Spanish military have created accommodation here for 5,000 refugees, and in the last 2 weeks the first 1,300 have arrived. In the next few days the running of the camp will be handed over to Spanish non-governmental organizations. Mr. Aznar was taken on an extensive tour. He talked at length to some of the refugees and said this camp was a perfect example of what was needed for them in Albania. He praised the Spanish troops for the work they'd done here to make the refugees as comfortable as possible in such difficult conditions. Later, the Spanish Prime Minister said he told the Kosovo Albanians it was his wish to see them return to Kosovo as quickly as possible and in safe conditions where their rights would be respected. Increasingly, though, aid agencies are facing the dilemma of whether to concentrate on plans for a swift repatriation in the event of a peace agreement, or whether to establish more permanent facilities in Albania in case the refugees have to spend the coming winter in exile. Renewed efforts are now underway to move many of them away from Albania's unstable border with Kosovo and into these camps such as Hamalai further south. Mr. Aznar is by no means the first Western leader to visit the refugees in Albania, but his mission here has come at a time when their long-term future looks more and more uncertain. Peter Biles, BBC News at the Hamalai refugee camp in Albania.
The Vavarin Bridge was hit around 1 p.m. It was market day and busy. Eyewitnesses say 2 NATO planes thundered in at low level. One fired a missile hitting a section of the far side of the bridge. It went into the river Morava, taking with it vehicles and pedestrians. A few minutes later, the jets returned, firing 2 more missiles. Local people say that's why the casualty toll is so high. After the first bomb, they rushed to the scene to do what they could for the dead, dying and injured. They then got caught in the second attack. The survivors of that were taken to 3 different hospitals. And the dead to the morgue. We filmed the 8 bodies there for a few seconds, but could never show the full horror. One body, that of a 15-year-old girl, had already been taken away by her family.
Nastradalo je 10 ljudi, mladih.
About 10 young people were killed.
Ne znamo koliko je u vodama Morave.
We don't know how many find their grave in the Morava water.
17 people were injured by the blasts, some very seriously. This elderly woman, who'd been inside a nearby hotel, which was wrecked, was so shocked at the carnage, she too was taken to the hospital. As we left, a few people in boats were still looking for the missing. The hopelessness of this man's search underlining why the death toll is expected to rise. Tim Marshall, Sky News, Vavarin, southern Serbia.
The Foreign Office has confirmed that a journalist from The Times has been injured in a missile attack in Kosovo. The attack happened in the village of Rakane, close to Prizren. Times reporter Eva Ann Prentice was travelling in a 2-vehicle convoy of journalists when they were hit by a NATO missile, according to the Serb-run media centre in Pristina. The driver of one of the vehicles was killed and a reporter from an Italian newspaper was injured. The French philosopher Daniel Schiffer, pictured here, touring a bomb site earlier this month, was also hurt. He's a supporter of President Milosevic and has been speaking on behalf of the Yugoslav authorities. The attack followed a statement from Belgrade saying it accepted the general principles of a settlement plan drawn up by the G8 for Kosovo. And as the bombing went on, the Foreign Secretary Robin Cook said it was up to President Milosevic to prove his offer is genuine.
So NATO warplanes are again accused of killing innocent civilians. But the unconfirmed attacks on the bridge brought this response from the alliance.
NATO will provide the details if NATO aircraft were involved. But I do want to stress that NATO attacks only military targets. We do not attack any target which does not have a fundamental military purpose. And as always, when we attack those military targets, we take every precaution to avoid causing harm to civilians.
More British troops are on a war footing for peacekeeping. They're preparing to join more than 12,000 already in the Balkans. Several hundred doctors and nurses from the National Health Service may go with them, called up by the government as reservists. But NATO is denying reports that Britain has offered up to a third of a ground invasion force, 150,000 strong, planned for Kosovo. The alliance dismisses claims that they were promised at a secret meeting of European defence ministers last week. President Milosevic is reported to be ready to accept peace proposals of the group of 8 Western powers, together with Russia. There's considerable overlap with the conditions laid down by NATO. The main demands are an immediate end to fighting in Kosovo, withdrawal of Yugoslav forces from the province, return of all refugees, deployment of an international peacekeeping force, and free access to the area for aid agencies. The air campaign, according to Britain's Foreign Secretary, is persuading President Milosevic to broad acceptance of the peace plan.
I welcome the fact that at the end of last week it was clear that Belgrade felt the pressure and that Milosevic felt obliged to make a fresh offer. As I've already said, we need to see the details of that. He needs to go beyond acceptance of general principles and to put real substance into the proposal before we can know that he is serious.
In Montenegro, Yugoslavia's junior partner, there are increasing signs of opposition to Milosevic. At a rally of the Republic's Liberal Union, speakers blame the Yugoslav hierarchy for dragging Montenegro into the war. This man said, "They've tied our boat to their sinking ship." Gary Lloyd, Sky News.
Politisch opportun sind. Ein Dilemma der NATO-Politiker, die bisher Milosevic als Verhandlungspartner noch nicht ganz aufgegeben hatten. Während sie ihr Ziel, das Ende der Gewalt im Kosovo, noch nicht erreicht haben, sind die Juristen in Den Haag schon ein gutes Stück weitergekommen. Ina ballt es fast zusammen.
Das Jugoslawien-Tribunal in Den Haag ist vor 6 Jahren von der UNO gegründet worden, und zwar eigens für die Verbrechen des Balkankrieges. 15 Richter und 600 Mitarbeiter hat das Tribunal bisher. Das reichte noch nicht einmal aus, um alle Anklagen aus dem Bosnienkrieg zu bearbeiten. Und nun bringt der neue Krieg neue Arbeit. Die Chefanklägerin Louise Arbour braucht dringend mehr Personal und außerdem die Hilfe der NATO-Staaten, zum Beispiel durch deren Satellitenfotos. Das sind die wichtigsten Beweise, mit denen das Gericht arbeitet, um die Anklage zu erheben. Aber bis heute haben die NATO-Länder diese Informationen nur sehr selten herausgegeben. Trotzdem schaffte es das Gericht, gegen 84 Personen Anklage zu erheben. Im nahen Gefängnis sitzt allerdings noch nicht einmal die Hälfte davon. Verurteilt wurden bisher alleine 2 Kroaten und 2 Serben. Die längste Strafe 20 Jahre Haft, unter anderem für den Serben Tadic. Er war beteiligt am Morden und Foltern im Lager Omarska, doch lediglich als Handlanger. Sie stehen schon seit Jahren ganz oben auf der Fahndungsliste des Jugoslawien-Tribunals. Serbenführer Radovan Karadzic und sein General Ratko Mladic. Doch für die Festnahme der beiden Hauptverbrecher des Bosnienkrieges ist das Gericht auf die Soldaten der UNO angewiesen. Denen war das bisher zu riskant und die Serben lieferten Mladic und Karadzic nicht aus. Aus diesen Gründen wird es wohl auch schwierig werden, Slobodan Milosevic vor das Gericht nach Den Haag zu bringen. Dabei hatte der Chefankläger bei Gründung des Gerichts vor 6 Jahren mehr versprochen.
The most guilty are the people who ordered this sort of act.
Am meisten Schuld in Jugoslawien tragen die, die die Grausamkeiten befehlen. Sie tragen viel mehr Schuld als die, die die Befehle bloß ausgeführt haben. Wir wollen nicht nur diese kleinen Fische. Wir gehen die Leiter nach oben und nicht nach unten.
Dies hier das Werk eines einzigen Tages. Ein serbischer Paramilitär aufgenommen im Bosnienkrieg. Dies ist der Auftraggeber Željko Ražnatović, genannt Arkan, der Tiger, der selbstgefällige Herrn zur Linken. Nichts hat sich bis heute verändert, noch immer lautet der Auftrag an seine Männer wie damals. Mord und ethnische Säuberung, sie plündern und sie brandschatzen, wie damals in Vukovar, nun auch im Kosovo. Doch die Chefanklägerin des Tribunals in Den Haag glaubt, ihr Gericht könne ihn stoppen. Nachdem Berichte über Arkans Beteiligung im Kosovo bekannt wurden, da habe ich entschieden, den bislang geheimen Haftbefehl des Tribunals gegen Željko Ražnatović, auch bekannt als Arkan, zu veröffentlichen. Eine Taktik mit Tücken. Der Verbrecher wird öffentlich ausgeschrieben, aber zugleich per Bekanntmachung vor seinen Verfolgern gewarnt. Kaum zu erwarten, dass Arkan das Reich seines Schutzherrn Milosevic noch verlässt und tatsächlich geschnappt wird. Es mag nun schwer werden, musste Louise Arbour einräumen, ihn selbst außerhalb Jugoslawiens zu verhaften, aber immerhin, das sei jetzt klar, wer ihm diene, wer seinen Anweisungen Folge leiste, der könne nun ebenfalls belangt werden, wegen der Zusammenarbeit mit einem Kriegsverbrecher. Den jedoch lässt das kalt. Der Gesuchte nur einen Tag später, Ende März, mitten in Belgrad, ein Volksfest serbischer Propaganda. Inszeniert von Arkan, auf der Bühne seine Ehefrau höchstpersönlich als Einpeitscherin. Es ist egal, welche Armeen gegen uns kämpfen, wir verteidigen das Herz Serbiens, Kosovo. Wir werden niemals aufgeben. Und am Rande Arkans Autogrammstunde, der Kriegsverbrecher lässt sich feiern als Volksheld, führt sich auf als Staatsmann.
Das serbische Volk hat bewiesen, dass es vor den Luftschlägen keine Angst hat. Die NATO macht einen großen Fehler, indem sie unser Volk bombardiert. Das werden wir nicht vergessen, nicht in den nächsten 50 Jahren.
Und im US-Fernsehen darf er sich präsentieren und gibt Auskunft über die gefangenen Soldaten. Sie würden gut behandelt nach internationalem Recht. Ausgerechnet ein gesuchter Kriegsverbrecher referiert über die Genfer Konvention. Nur eine Woche später das Hotel Jugoslavia in der Belgrader Innenstadt zerstört. Wenigstens die NATO hat Arkan mittlerweile im Visier. Das Haus galt als sein Hauptquartier. Seine Reaktion: Er fühle sich geschmeichelt, dass die NATO immerhin 4 Cruise-Missiles auf ihn abgefeuert habe. Und wie, um seine Jäger weiter zu verhöhnen, nur Stunden nach der Bekanntgabe der Anklage gegen Milosevic und Co. Arkan mit Familie beim Stadtbummel in geradezu aufreizender Gelassenheit.
Um ehrlich zu sein, das interessiert mich nicht, die Bohne. Das ist ein politischer Prozess. Ich erkenne Den Haag nicht als Gericht an. Es soll ein politischer Prozess werden. Die Anklägerin Arbor ist nur eine Parteigängerin des Westens.
For United States of America, she's acting as West.
Kriegsverbrecher unter sich, Arkan und Karadzic. Eine Verhaftung fürchten müssen sie derzeit beide nicht. Genauso wenig wie ihr Mentor Milosevic.
NATO aircraft have hit a sanatorium in southeastern Serbia, killing at least 10 people and injuring others. There's no independent confirmation of the report. In other raids, a bridge in the center of Vladislav Han in southern Serbia was destroyed. That's according to the Yugoslav media. Earlier, NATO admitted that 4 of its aircraft attacked a bridge in the south-central Serbian town of Bavarin during an intensive day of raids across Yugoslavia. NATO said the bridge, which is one of the few remaining links between north and central Serbia, was a legitimate military target. Yugoslav reports say at least 11 people were killed and 19 were injured in the lunchtime attack on the bridge, which was crowded with shoppers attending the town's market day.
NATO says that 4 guided missiles struck this bridge just after 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. It's believed to be the last remaining link between the north and south-central region of Serbia, and in NATO's terms a legitimate military target. But eyewitnesses say several civilian cars were crossing as the planes came over. 2 missiles hit first, then people rushed to help those trapped. 4 minutes later, another 2 hit, said this man. Journalists were shown the bodies of 8 apparent victims in the local morgue. The Serb authorities say that by striking in broad daylight, NATO was deliberately targeting civilians. It's a charge the alliance has faced before, and its denial was as strong as ever.
NATO does not attack civilian targets. We attack exclusively military targets, and we take every precaution to avoid inflicting harm on civilians.
The alliance is also being asked to explain why NATO jets apparently bombed a convoy, including a group of foreign journalists travelling inside Kosovo. A local driver is reported to have been killed in the attack. A British reporter for the Times newspaper and a Portuguese television journalist were among the injured. Despite such incidents, NATO remains determined to win this war from the air. It's again been striking Serb positions close to the border with Albania, and overnight local media reported widespread damage across Yugoslavia. Power stations close to the capital Belgrade and the city of Niš are amongst the targets apparently hit. The evidence that NATO is disabling the entire infrastructure of Serbia is mounting, but so too are the reminders that that strategy is not without its risks. Stephen Gibbs, BBC News.
Using NATO
militaire. L'OTAN qui a continué également au petit matin à bombarder les faubourgs de Belgrade, visant de nouveau une installation électrique. Là encore, les habitants des environs de la capitale serbe ont souffert. Ici, à Ripagne, une vieille dame est morte au milieu des gravats de sa maison. Enfin, toute la matinée, de violents tirs d'artillerie ont eu lieu à la frontière albanaise, les Serbes visant des positions de Lučeka et des postes frontières.
First story, a long time for perhaps just this, but is it everything it seems?
It does look as if it's a step forward. There have been comments and statements from Belgrade over the last week saying that Yugoslavia does agree, or probably agrees, to the G8 conditions, and that's basically an end to the violence, withdrawal of troops, return of the refugees, an international peacekeeping force, free access by refugee agencies to anyone, anywhere. So this sort of statement has been floating around for a number of weeks now, but this seems to be more concrete. But I am sure people at NATO will be looking through this rather short statement and saying that phrase you were using of resolution of the crisis from the military to the political sphere. They'll say, all right, Belgrade's trying to get a halt to the bombing. They're trying to obfuscate, they are trying to confuse it. I'm sure that's what NATO will say, but let us remember the Finnish President Martti Ahtisaari is due in Belgrade in the next 24 hours to speak to President Milosevic. Viktor Chernomyrdin, the Russian envoy, has also been in Belgrade very recently. There is a large European Union foreign ministers meeting in Cologne coming up. Well, there are a lot of opportunities to certainly discuss this. I'm sure, again, NATO will say, right, showing you're serious about a cessation of violence is very simple. Start pulling your troops out of Kosovo.
Well, indeed. I mean, the one thing that they keep saying, and they say repeatedly over the last few weeks, is it's got to be unconditional. But as we know with Milosevic, that he could say this on the one hand, and then all of a sudden the conditions start coming out of Belgrade, don't they?
Well, if suddenly the conditions are, I'll withdraw some of the troops, but not all of them, or might withdraw them from this part of Kosovo to that part, and so forth. NATO do not want a cessation of the bombing campaign, which then leads to diplomatic stalemate, because then resuming the campaign, if you can't then get a diplomatic solution, will be very, very difficult. I'm sure there is going to be great scepticism at NATO on this statement, and they will, Jamie Shares frequently said, actions are very easy. Day before yesterday said, Kosovo is a small country. You can get your troops out of there very quickly. Why not show us?
Indeed, but if you look at it from the Yugoslav point of view, that they do not want to feel, as we've discussed before, that while their troops are withdrawing, they are a sitting target to be bombed.
And considering how many bridges have been blown up between Serbia and Kosovo, trying to find out the routes they could actually use to get forces out of Kosovo is very interesting. I think what NATO would have to say is